Ready? Oh man, we just finished an awesome road trip weekend in this Peace Van Rentals van again. I love this thing. I want to give you a little tour. Let's start with the captain's chair. Come on. All right, up front, I love this comfy chair with dual armrests. That's great for those longer rides. And this is a 1988 van again. I love some of these throwback noises and sounds that it makes. The seatbelt warning is my favorite. It's easy to drive, it's fully automatic, and it's got some nice upgrades that Peace Van Rentals has added. We've got a Bluetooth stereo and decent speakers all around. Over here we've got USB charging, and now most normal people would use that to keep their phones charged. I mostly used it to keep my RX-0 and GoPro Hero 7 charged up fully. And this last upgrade is a relatively new one for this van in particular, and it's little, but it makes a big difference. Cup holders. Right down here in the center. It's the little things that matter. All right, come on in, let me give you a tour of the rest. So first thing we want to do, pop the top, give ourselves room to stand up. Once the top is popped up, you've got room to stand up fully, and you actually got a separate bed up here. Two people can sleep up here on this part. First nice little touch, we've got a little LED light to light up this whole area. On top here, we've got a 2-burner propane stove next to a working sink with running water. And it's actually got a couple of pots and pans in it from Peace Van's Rental. The amount of gear that they've provided is really nice. You know, down here in the utensils drawer, we've got, of course, the utensils, but everything you could want. Really all Chris and I needed to think about on this trip was the food we wanted to bring and our bedding and clothes. Underneath that, we've got additional storage, a couple more pots and pans from those guys, and some food I've shoved in here. And next to all of that, of course, we got a little fridge. Working electric fridge filled with all of the important stuff like peanut butter and jelly, and actually I'm a little hungry. On this fold-out table that reveals additional storage. We've got another container of plates, cups, glasses, wine glasses. Nice easy owner manual. Over here, we've got a whole spice rack. Chris mentioned that this place is outfitted better than most Airbnb she stayed in. And back here, we've got a little closet with a mirror. You can check to make sure you don't have any peanut butter stuck in your teeth. And we've got additional USB charging, and we actually have regular outlets as well, as long as you're plugged in at one of those RV places. Now, this van can sleep 4 and seat more than just 2 right here. The passenger seat swivels around for extra convenience. Ta-da! I wouldn't recommend driving this way though. All right, this bench folds down to a really comfy bed. I mean that, it feels very comfortable. And one of the things that helps you sleep in this van, in the cooler months, a little propane heater right here. It keeps it nice and warm all night long. And you've also got these nice privacy curtains. They wrap all the way around the vehicle and, well, do what they say, give you a little bit of privacy at night. But you know what? We didn't come here to sit in the van and be warm and cozy. We came here to shoot some waterfalls. Let's go. So I want to share with you some tips for waterfall and water flow photography. It's where you get that kind of silky smooth water effect when photographing fast moving water. Now, we took this van on our road trip down to the Columbia Gorge, and I think many people think of those epic waterfalls that are down there, especially Multnomah. It's just absolutely gorgeous and everybody should see it and photograph it. But there are so many fun little small waterfalls, both on the Oregon and the Washington side. And you can take these tips and apply them to anything, even waves breaking on the rocky seashore. And some of my favorite waterfall and flowy water pictures were just small streams that I came across driving on back roads. And so doesn't really matter where you go. You can practice these tips on even the smallest streams. Now, the best time of day to go is morning or evening when the light levels are a little bit lower and the lighting is very even. That will allow you to get to those slightly longer shutter speeds that are going to give you those flowy water pictures. If you've got an ND filter that simply cuts the amount of light reaching your sensor, well, then you can do it during brighter periods of the day as well, but it's not a fix for everything, because if you've got bright sunlight hitting the water you're photographing, that's very difficult and doesn't make for good pictures. So, morning or evening is generally best, or if you happen to live in the Pacific Northwest and it's just started to rain on us, these cloudy, slightly overcast days can be perfect as well, because even right now, just about noon, it's very evenly lit and quite nice. Now let's talk about the gear that you need. I think the first most important piece of gear to talk about other than your camera is, of course, a nice sturdy tripod. You're going to be going for shutter speeds longer than you can safely handhold, and a tripod will do that for you. You can also bring along a tripod alternative, something like a little platypod. It's much lighter if you're hiking into the backcountry to carry than a tripod, but it's not quite as versatile and flexible in its setup as a tripod would be. I did mention, of course, that you want to bring along a camera. You need full manual control, or at least aperture control, that's going to drive that shutter speed up to higher amounts. A circular polarizer is really nice. I think it's the one filter all landscape photographers should have in their bag. The effects from a circular polarizer cannot be recreated in post-processing. It really nicely cuts the glare off of the water and the rocks surrounding it, and just really makes the pictures look a lot better. Strongly recommend. Now, optional pieces of gear. I already mentioned this, an ND filter. If you want more flexibility and versatility in the time of day that you go out, an ND filter can be really nice for simply cutting the amount of light to the camera and allowing you to go to longer shutter speeds. But it's not a fix for everything. I do recommend 3 or 6 stop. That seems to be about perfect for most waterfall photography. And a remote release is really nice, or use the Wi-Fi app from your phone to your camera. That can avoid jiggling the camera while you're taking the picture, or you just do a 2-second timer. All right, now that you've got your gear, you know when to go, you've decided where to go, let's go photograph a waterfall. Well, it's not a big epic waterfall, but it is a really pretty little series of waterfalls. I think this is a great spot to start. And just like I said, small waterfalls can be really interesting. Even smaller objects, like we've got this little peak of a rock that's just being buffeted on both sides by flowing water. I really love the contrast of the sharp, hard rock against the smooth, flowy water. So it's almost a macro-like shot. Let's see how this turns out. All right, so I've actually set up out here on this rock. I really like this perspective, and that brings me to my first tip. Be safe when photographing fast-moving water and waterfalls. Don't be that photographer that puts yourself in a dangerous position. I'm standing on a very solid, flat rock. It's not slippery. My tripod is very secure. I feel safe and secure out here on this spot. Now, the first thing that you want to do is kind of dial in your settings and get a sense for how slow a shutter speed you can shoot. I just happen to have on the circular polarizer, and I really recommend just put your camera in aperture priority. Set it at ISO 100 and the highest aperture you have available to you. In this camera, that's f/22, and that gets me about half a second, actually a little bit less. Not quite as fast as I would like for the current light conditions. It's just to give you an idea. You might be able to get to 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 seconds, or maybe you're finding yourself still at 1/30th of a second, nowhere close to being able to get those flowy waterfall pictures. It just gives you an idea of what you can capture. Now that I know I can get kind of close to that, I'm pretty happy with this setup, and I'm going to start to think about composition before I come back to my final settings. So with your composition, you want to give that water a nice flowy path from the top of the frame to the bottom. It's going to follow gravity. That's what water does. You want your image to reflect that and not have it look like the water is defying gravity and going at some weird slant. You also want to give your viewer a sense of that path and allow them to follow it without any distracting elements. Watch for dark rocks that might block your viewer's eye or attention away from the frame, or anything else sticking into the frame like roots or logs or sticks. Once you've got all that set up, you've got your composition you like, now throw on your ND filter if you need it. And I really like this Nissi system for how easy it is to take on and off. So that's on, and now I can get to much longer shutter speeds. The shutter speed is really important based on the kind of flow of the water and, well, personal preference too. I really typically like somewhere between 2 to 4 seconds. Sometimes a little bit longer if the water's moving a little bit faster and has a little more drama to it. Sometimes a little bit shorter. What you do want to watch out for is don't go to those very high shutter speeds that suddenly make the water completely featureless. Have some of that sense of motion and drama remaining. And now I can drop way back down from f/22. Your pictures aren't going to be sharp up there. So I come back to something like f/8 sounds pretty good to me. And that can give me a nice long shutter speed of 10 seconds working with a 10-stop ND filter. And I might even raise the ISO a little bit to shorten that just even a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and take this 10-second shot. And I've been out here in the cold and rain long enough that I'm ready to head back to that warm, cozy van and wrap this up. I love road trips. I love photographing on road trips. Having this cozy little van to call home while we were traveling around here in the Pacific Northwest this past weekend was just awesome. It was a lot of fun. If you're considering kind of exploring this region, you should consider Peace Van Rentals. I'll put a link right down below. They've got lots of vans, including some more modern ones if that's your style, but I like this. It's got some style and soul to her that was a lot of fun. If you appreciated this video, give it a quick thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.